Actually, both our speakers today, Grant and Ray, both started with Colliers, and Ray was a trainee intern there at that point. But in 2010, she moved to Portland. Ray began her appraisal career in 2013 as a trainee at Colliers. 2015, she helped Grant open Pacific Coast Valuation Group's Portland office. There, she was able to expand her knowledge on. See, I said unable. That's not good. Able to expand her knowledge and increase her property type focus. She joined Appraisal and Consulting Group LLC in 2018, specializes in retail, multifamily, small office, mixed use throughout Oregon and Washington. She is licensed in Oregon and Washington and received her MAI designation. It's top of the heap. It's sort of like the CCIM deal for appraisal, right? Specialties: retail, multifamily, small office, mixed use. Favorite quote: life is not a spectator sport. She certainly lives that. Ray loves the Pacific Northwest, all it's got to offer. Spends her free time snowboarding, camping, hiking, golfing, and rafting in the great outdoors. Grant is also an MAI. Spent the beginning of his career with Colliers, Palmer Growth Pietka, before establishing the Portland office for Pacific Coast Valuation. And actually, I was talking to Doug Bean earlier, and Doug was commenting on how well you clean up, because I remember when you're getting started and we get the whole crew up here, and it was always entertaining to see committee to committee. What are you shrugging about?
Can't take you
I got him red anyway. Look at him. In his 14 years in the appraisal industry, Grant has established himself as a leading expert for valuation of retail and shopping centers within Oregon and Southwest Washington marketplaces. Grant performs complex real estate appraisal assignments for a broad range of intended uses, including lending, property tax appeal, estate planning, arbitration, divorce cases, and litigation. Grant has been an expert witness in court on multiple occasions, headed lease arbitrations, and has presented property tax appeals to the Board of Property Tax Appeal. He often presents retail market reports for various real estate groups. And I just want to sort of laugh and state, so my youngest brother's an MAI appraiser in Bend, and I always ask him, with what you do in testimony, obviously we've got buyers and sellers, we've got a meeting of the mind on something's value. And when you're putting values on things for divorces or other things, it's got to be a harder deal. And I asked him one day, I say, hey, Greg, how do you know when you've done your job? He says, oh, it's pretty easy. Nobody's too happy or too mad. So with that said, I'll let you guys tell us all about it and inspire us with investments and opportunities in Oregon and Southwest Washington across the river. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, thank you for having us here today. It's been a while since I've been given a presentation, so it might be a little rusty. So I think that we should all thank Ray for making sure that this happened today. She wrote me into this, and she's been very, very active in CCIM and in crew, and just has been really excelling in our industry of late. And her getting her MAI is, it's a pretty big deal. It took me 10 years to get my MAI. She got hers in less than 6. And for somebody that started from scratch, I don't know of anybody that has received their MAI that quickly. So. Clark County, Vancouver, Washington, here in Portland, it's kind of over there. It's on the other side of the river. I don't hear a lot of discussions talked about it on local brokers on this side, and that's because it is really a niche, and brokers that specialize in Vancouver tend to only specialize in Vancouver. I have probably appraised about 40 assignments, 40 different projects of various asset classes, retail, office, industrial, in the Vancouver marketplace in the last couple years. So I've had an opportunity to really dig in and find out a little bit about the marketplace. And I'll tell you what, I was schooled by brokers and property owners at various points because I didn't really understand just what is going on in Vancouver. We appraised a lot of properties in the downturn of the cycle over there. There was a lot of economic vacancy that was happening, particularly in retail and some in office. And there was a certain point when the market started taking off where I think it took a while for appraisers to really understand, how much it was really taking off in Vancouver and how it was keeping pace with the Portland marketplace. Vancouver, Washington, founded in 1825, total area of about 52 square miles. Fun fact, it was named after Captain George Vancouver, a British sailor and explorer. There's a total population of approximately 185,000 people in Vancouver and a median age of 37. We're going to keep this pretty high level because there's so many things going on over there, and we're going to be covering a lot of different asset classes. This slide shows household income, about $56,000 per year, and that compares slightly less to Portland. Opportunity zone. This is a really hot topic, throughout Portland, across the entire U.S. And this map covers where the opportunity zones are in Clark County, and you'll see that it's weighted heavily in the downtown Vancouver area, as well as to the east of Camas. And then way up on the north, Longview has a substantial amount of property in the opportunity zone. The Vancouver marketplace has many incentives that make it attractive for businesses. It ranks number 7 for business-friendly tax policies. It does not impose corporate income tax, personal income tax, nor does it have tax dividends, interests, or capital gains. There are some development hurdles. One of them is that cranes have to have height limitations because of the nearby airport. And there are really high costs driving feasibility rents. Historically, Vancouver hasn't achieved similar rental values as Portland. However, the cost for construction is no less up there. So trying to achieve the feasibility rents in a marketplace that hasn't done that is going to be challenging moving forward. The I-5 bridge is a really hot topic, and it will continue to be in the years to come. There is a major choking point in traffic along I-5. It's a 100-year-old bridge. Recently, Washington Senate has appropriated $8.5 million to establish a planning office. That is only a drop in the bucket compared to an overall projected cost in excess of $3.4 billion. With that, Ray's going to be covering the waterfront overview.
The waterfront is probably the largest, most exciting opportunity that's going on in downtown Vancouver. It's a Graymore project. It's impacting all of downtown. It's a hop and the skip from downtown just as you go over the I-5 bridge. It's really creating and turning Vancouver from a suburb into a live-work situation. You can live in Vancouver, you can take opportunity of restaurants and retail, and the waterfront's really helping change that. By the time it's all said and done, it'll be 32 acres, 20 city blocks. It's a $1.5 billion development. 3,300 housing units are going in there, a 10-acre park, 1.25 million square feet of office space that'll be added, and 250,000 square feet of retail and hospitality. It'll be done in 3 phases. As you can see up there, it's broken out. Phase 1 is nearing completion. Phase 2 is getting underway. Phase 3, we're probably not going to see for a couple years. They say 2021, maybe 2022. In phase 1, you can see in the photo up there, mostly what's complete to date is a half-mile river walk. That takes you out to a pier, which is a community space. You can go out, you can really enjoy what's going on in the area, look at the river. And then directly behind that is 2 large 2-story buildings totaling 40,000 square feet that have been dedicated to restaurant space. This is really the living room area for this development, drawing you to walk from downtown after work, go enjoy the river, take in a restaurant, take in the views, and enjoy the space. Next to that is the Murdoch. This is the first office building, 75,000 square feet, 75% leased. Key tenants include Fidelity Chicago Title, Murdoch Trust. The other 25% is for lease. Asking rates are $33 a square foot triple net if you're looking for some beautiful office views. And then next to that is Hotel Indigo. Hotel Indigo is anticipated to deliver this year. That is a Intercontinental Hotels Group hotel. They're a worldwide brand. They have hotels in over 100 different countries. They're trying to bring their presence into the Washington area and into the Northwest. They have some hotels down in San Francisco, but they have 2 more planned for Washington in 2020 as well. One going into Spokane and one going into Everett. Redavia is the first major multifamily development that's going in on the waterfront. This is a Greystar property. It'll be opening up next week. Pretty exciting. Asking rents averaging for studios, which are 579 square feet, are $1,700 a month. 1 bedroom, 1 bath, 717 square feet are averaging $2,150 a month. And if you'd like a 2 bedroom, 2 bath to really soak in those views at 1,056 square feet, that's $3,050 on average for asking. So you can enjoy that ritzy downtown Vancouver. It's not just the little suburb that it used to be. Adjacent to the Graymore project is another project with a similar but different take. This is the Terminal 1. It's a Port of Vancouver project. So its funding is really on a year-by-year basis with the port's development. This year they have attributed $2.5 million to the project. The start of this is essentially just the River Walk, which will connect to Graymore's River Walk. And then Hotel of Ace Marriott is also starting construction with completion of 2021. They anticipate having a Pike Place sort of featured market to help bring the community down to the waterfront and really embrace the overall feel. Right next to that, you have the I-5 bridge, as Grant talked about. And then directly on the other side is what used to be Joe's Crab Shack and Husong and Larry restaurants. These 2 restaurants are on about 3.5 acres. They're purchased, and it's a Kirkland development. This development is still in the beginning stages. Is anticipated to be a $200 million development with a 2 to 3 year timeline, likely to include hotel, office, take advantage of the riverfront restaurants, similar sort of mixed use. Then if you hop on I-5 and drive 10 miles north, you get to the wonderful booming city of Ridgefield. Famous as the birthplace for U-Haul in 1945. and had a whopping population in 1990 of 1,297 people. However, they have been increasing dramatically. Their population right now is about 8,000, and they're anticipated to be at 25,000 by 2035. They're high-end residences, brand new houses, their permitting is through the roof. Economic drivers, they have a 40-acre waterfront port in Ridgefield. It's also a Dollar Tree warehouse. Corwin Beverages is headquartered in Ridgefield. And Church and Dwight, you might be familiar with Arm & Hammer, has a large distribution center that's up there. They are also considered a suburb of Vancouver. So as more and more Vancouver office gets placed downtown, it's a quick 10-mile drive up to your home in Ridgefield. Ridgefield development commercial-wise is still a little limited. There's a new clinic that'll be opening up this summer. The Clark College is adding a campus there in 2020. They're anticipating that 1,000 students will be able to start at that campus when it opens. Park and Ride, they are redoing the I-5 interchange there. Ridgefield is really trying to put themselves on the map. And with that is Pioneer Village in Ridgefield. This is a giant 40-acre development. The developers have been working very closely with the city to ensure that it's integrated into the city and it's not just a standalone island of 300 apartments. But you got to think that adding 300 apartments to a population of 8,000 people is going to impact a city. It'll be anchored by Rocer's grocery store, and then there'll be 16 retail office buildings that will also be a part of the development, totaling 80,000 square feet. Asking rents right now are $23.50 a square foot triple net for those buildings. Interesting fact, when you do development in Ridgefield, you have to do 25% as open space. So you are seeing a lot of parks being brought into Ridgefield. This property has significant wetlands, so they'll be incorporating their wetlands as part of the overall development and park and donating that 25% open space. Ridgefield is also trying to gain 1 mile of walking and biking paths every year to their city. So it's a very planned development. This is not just little town boom. They are really interested in exactly who you are, what you are doing, and how you're going to embrace and enrich their community. Switching over to multifamily, the other largest development going on in Clark County and Vancouver. The overall vacancy level for Clark County is 3.7%, which is significantly lower than the rest of the Portland metro area. However, this has also enticed developers to move into the Clark County area. There's over 1,000 units that are currently under construction in Vancouver, the 300 units in Ridgefield. The entire Clark County totals about 1,500 units. That's 15% of the current supply that's under development. We'll see how that impacts that 3-point-something% vacancy in the next couple years. But as for now, construction is being absorbed. At the end of 2017, there was a large 332 units that were delivered in the Orchard area. 2018, several hundred. One of significance is Uptown in downtown Vancouver. It's 167 units. Was very well received. There's also some small multifamily 10, 20, 30 units that are going on quarter blocks surrounding that area. The entire downtown is changing. You can live there, you can work there. It's no longer the Vancouver that you saw 5 years ago. Under construction, several hundred unit apartment complexes. We are seeing construction throughout all of Vancouver. It is not limited to just downtown or just Orchards area or one suburb. It's really the entire vicinity. Proposed development for 2020, over 400 units in downtown Vancouver, which will be impacting the area and then surrounding area. A couple things to note, large developments occur in Vancouver. If you're looking in Portland, you're used to seeing a lot of 30, 40, 50 units, or you're used to seeing people now are taking advantage of IZ zoning, so they're trying to stay under 20 units. They're building little townhouses. That's not Vancouver. Vancouver is 200, 300 unit apartment complexes. You're also not going to see very many studios in Vancouver unless you're talking about the waterfront. Vancouver is appealing to couples, they're appealing to people with kids. There's a lot of 2 bedrooms and some 3 bedrooms and a 1 bedroom. Studios aren't happening. With that, you're also going to see amenities. The tenants of Vancouver are used to seeing a pool, a spa, a clubhouse, a gym, a storage unit. They want a patio. They want on-site management, maybe a gate all around it. Carports are very, very popular in Vancouver. On a price per unit basis, they're averaging $200,000 per unit in Vancouver. That's comparable to Beaverton, Clackamas, Milwaukee, and Happy Valley. However, you are going to get a little bit more on your cap rate in Vancouver. You're seeing basis points of 30 to 50 points more in Vancouver, with an average of 5.2 for the entire Clark County. A couple of significant sales. The first one is Trio. It's primarily 1 and 2 bedrooms, a couple 3 bedrooms in Camas. Sold in 2018, new construction. Bridge Creek, mostly 2 bedrooms. This was a renovated complex in 2016. Increased their amenities, increased their finishes. Tree Line is also primarily 2 bedrooms. They have a little bit of 1 bedrooms and a couple 3 bedrooms. Carports are in all of those complexes. And then Pioneer Vista, which is in Ridgefield, is mostly 2 bedrooms. They all have storage closets. The average unit size on Pioneer Vista is 1,043 square feet. So a little bit different than when you compare it to Portland. And I will turn it back over to Grant to tell you about retail.
Thank you, Ray. As I previously mentioned, there were some really, really dark days for retail in Clark County during the economic downturn. Repossession of properties, workouts with lenders, and that really suppressed rents and pushed vacancies up for some time. In the years since, there's been very little construction, but we've seen demand increase quite a bit. And almost all the space that was vacant at during the slow period has been absorbed. And retail stands at under 4% vacancy in Clark County right now, which is the lowest I've seen it personally. Interestingly, there's not much construction on the horizon either. About a little over 100,000 square feet. Cap rates are trending towards about 6.5%, offering slightly better yields than you would get in the Portland marketplace. We've seen rental values increase substantially as well with the reduction of vacancy, standing at $22 per square foot average. And close to a 3% gain in the past year. This demonstrates retail vacancy by area. Most of the lowest vacancy is within the close-in Vancouver marketplace. As previously mentioned, there are just a few projects under construction. Clackamas Square is one of them. It's one of the largest projects anchored. It is it has been planned, but it still hasn't started construction. There's going to be a Winco at Anderson Shops, Four Seasons Shopping Center Phase 2. Ridgefield Pioneer Village, another property in Ridgefield under development. And then there's a small shopping center called Shops at Erickson Farms. That's way up in the very northwestern portion of Vancouver. Small inline retail drive-through coffee shop. That project has 5 or 6 different buildings, and it was completely pre-leased prior to completion. Again, this demonstrates retail cap rates. We're seeing a range anywhere from mid 5 up to 7% for kind of standard investment. We're seeing buyers be very scrutinizing leases, making sure that the tenants are going to be staying in place. Particularly retail, where there is risk that online retailing is going to adversely impact. So investors are looking for service type tenants, medical retail, tenants that they believe that are going to be long-term and create durability to the investment. If there are tenants that possibly could be perceived as threatened by the current retail environment, investors are kind of pricing in potential turnover. Another interesting thing about retail in general and impacting Vancouver is that for the large anchor spaces, we're seeing industrial warehouse rents and major anchor rents start to come together because there's not the same amount of demand for the anchor space. Tenants can't pay $18, $20 a square foot for 50,000 square foot spaces. When these spaces are coming available, they're getting backfilled at $10, $12 a square foot, which isn't all that different than industrial rents. So we're going to be seeing a merging of that to some degree. I compiled a few select sales. This deck is available to anybody at the end of the presentation. If you feel like there's some information that you want, just contact Dave. Not a whole lot of big transactions have occurred in the Vancouver marketplace in the last couple years. Most deals for retail are in the $4 to $12 million price range. Cap rates, for really, really good investments, we're still going to see in the mid 5s. This top property here, Anderson Square, brand new development, long-term leases in place, and it sold at an eye-popping $803 per square foot on a 5.5 cap rate. So it is big pricing is achievable in Vancouver, but that's not very common. Most retail centers that we're seeing more of a price range in the mid 2s to $400 a square foot. Office was another category that struggled a bit in the recession. And has rebounded quite nicely. Clark County and Vancouver in general, they're facing a general undersupply of office. Right now, the vacancy stands at 5.4%. That's greater than the retail vacancy that I stated. However, office functions a little bit different in that there's a little bit more churn, and it doesn't necessarily carry as strong of a long-term vacancy. For example, the Portland office market in general is standing about 7.5% to 8% vacancy. So Clark County is performing quite a bit better than the general market. This shows that there's no office under construction. I'm not exactly sure why it says that, but in a couple slides you'll see that there are a few projects underway, but again, minimal supply is coming online, and with the way the economy is working right now, I don't see a ton of speculative office development occurring. So we're going to be looking at some relatively low vacancies moving forward without any disruption, as far as I can tell. Office cap rates, generally in the 6 to 7% range. You'll see cap rates above 7% if there's perceived rollover risk, or if if it's just a B or C property. Rents have been holding fairly steady, with just a slight increase of less than 2% in the last year. This demonstrates office vacancy by area. And again, office cap rates by area, general range in the 6 to 7%. Here's a few office projects that are under construction. The Hurley is a 32,500 square foot office condo project. They are competing with the waterfront, and so they elected to offer ownership to compete with just renting space. Felt like their project would be more successful to open up owner-user opportunities. Project is slated for 2019 delivery, and they're broken up into 7,000 square foot suites. Stone Mill Center 2, 100,000 square foot project. We got, and then the Rainier Springs Rehabilitation build-to-suit project, 53,000 square feet. Here's some selected office sales, demonstrating a cap rate in the 7 to 8% range. There hasn't been a whole lot of activity, and some of the inventory that's been presented has been pretty hairy, if you will. So I think that range is a little overstated, and more in the 6 to 7.5% would be appropriate. Industrial, similar to the Portland metro area overall. It's the real sweetheart of the industry right now. There doesn't ever seem to be enough of it. If anything gets presented to the market for sale on an investment standpoint, it gets snapped up. We're underdeveloped, and vacancies are critically low. So I would anticipate that we're going to see some loosening of that, because where we're at right now at 3.1% vacancy in Vancouver, in Clark County, that's going to really start pushing rents, because tenants aren't going to have anywhere to go. And as rents push up, then the ability to have achieve feasibility occurs, and then construction will take off. Cap rates for industrial properties are relatively low. I would say that they're definitely lower than retail and office, and greater than multifamily. So somewhere in the high 5s to mid 6s. This demonstrates industrial vacancy by area. As previously stated, it's really low vacancy throughout the entire Clark County area. There are just a handful of projects that are actually moving forward. Fisher Construction Group, they're building on a 2.2 acre site that's port-owned land, and will be the Centennial Industrial Park. Will consist of 24,000 square feet of office and 7,500 square feet of warehouse, providing 45 new employees, and a projected value at $3.5 million. I didn't appraise it. And another exciting project is Vigor Industrial Shipbuilders. They were awarded a $1 billion contract from the U.S. Army. They have a new site at the Columbia Business Park. They'll be hiring 200 skilled laborers and 200 once they're up and running. I believe so. Selected sales, there really hasn't been any large sort of transactions on that side of the river. This would be, a lot of the data here would just be competitive with owner-user sort of properties, just happen to be, leased at the time of sale. Anticipation is if any new inventory got presented to the marketplace, it would be highly sought after. Also presented some small general commercial investment sales. The Vancouver marketplace is really active with owner-users, businesses moving to the marketplace, largely moving away from Portland. And it's created a really competitive situation for small investment properties and anything that could be partial owner-user or full owner-user. And so that's really pressed the effective cap rates down for properties, under $2 million, where we're seeing cap rates anywhere from below 6% all the way up to, just 6.2%. So it's really, really competitive for that asset type. A few interesting facts that we learned while we were researching this. Per Amazon, Vancouver is the 7th most romantic city in the nation. And that was based on online orders of romantic goods. Romantic. I tried to find somebody famous from Vancouver and really, really, really struggled. The most I could come up with is famed NASCAR driver Greg Biffle was born in Vancouver. That's it. It is illegal to harass Bigfoot in Vancouver. And finally, legally speaking, you're not allowed to walk around in public in Vancouver if you knowingly have a common cold. I didn't make this stuff up. The cap rates are made up, not that. So Ray, I'll let you handle this.
The real reason you came today, so you know how to help your appraisers. Number one piece of advice I can give you if you're having an appraisal done on a property, either you're buying it, you're selling it, you're representing the buyer or the seller, you just got done developing it, show up to the inspection. We are there for 30 minutes to do a quick walkthrough, and we want to learn as much as we possibly can about your property and do as good of a job as we possibly can on the appraisal. But we really want to hear your story. If you just spent the last 3 years building it, you know it. If you have been walking potential buyers through it for the last couple months, you know what they've pointed out, what they're looking for, what the flaws are, what the best aspects are. So if you can take the 30 minutes to help us understand that story, it's very appreciated. Also, if you're not able to be there, be available for a 5-minute phone call. You can fill us in on why your buyer thinks this is the best property under the sun and they're willing to pay top dollar for it. Or maybe you can explain a line item in the operating expenses that doesn't make sense, that's going to really impact the overall income that's being generated from that property. You're always welcome to share comparables with us. If you think the perfect comp, or maybe it's an off-market transaction that's not going to come across our desk, send it to us. We might not use it in our report, but we will always consider it. It's always appreciated. We love data no matter what it is. Provide any pertinent information that you have on the property. If you know that the roof is in need of repair and it's going to cost $30,000 and you have a bid for that, feel free to give us that information. Or if you know that the sewer lines need to be replaced, that's not something that we're necessarily going to see on an inspection. And then lastly, return phone calls. I know that appraisers leave a lot of voicemails. We're trying to get data. It might not be specific to your property that time, but next time you need an appraisal, maybe it comes around. It's a round world. So give us a minute of your day. We are always happy to help you as well. So if you're looking for data or you have a question, feel free to give us a call. We are great resources and we're available to you.
We take referrals.
Yes.
We
There's
don't
a
care
stack
you.
of cards
We
on
don't
the
care
back
what you
table.
call us. Just call us. And we are always willing to provide market data to our broker partners. We know that it's not possible for us to do our job without the trust of the brokerage community, and part of that is if we're expecting them to provide us with useful information, comparable data. And so when it's time for them to try and collect some data and we have it, we're always an open book and a resource for the commercial industry. Thank you.
Any questions? And it doesn't have to be about Vancouver. We appraise in Portland too.
Grant will probably get a lot of questions on that intimacy type deal.
Next slide.
What's that?
Next slide.
I know we have a supply problem with industrial in Portland, and it sounds like Vancouver has the same issue. Has Vancouver or Clark County taken steps to open up more land for industrial development? I know that's a constraint here in Oregon.
That too.
I don't exactly know. My anticipation is that it's a very constrained development land market. We see very few transactions. We're seeing, there's, no big tracts of land that I know of that have just like magically opened up. So, same as everywhere in the Portland metropolitan area, it's a big issue.
What's driving the retail strength? You said it got hammered during the downturn. Now it's kicking butt. What happened?
Well, yeah, I mean, there's vacancy statistics, and then there's kind of reality of marketplace. Retail statistically, from a vacancy standpoint, is quite strong. If you talk to brokers that are trying to get deals done, they would tell you it's a horrible market because tenants in the current marketplace are really trying to drive down their occupancy costs. Landlords know that there's not that much space available, so they kind of have the golden ticket, so they want to drive occupancy costs up and increase their return. They're not meeting very well in the middle, and I think that that ultimately I think that the tenants hopefully are going to get a little bit of reprieve in this whole situation because the retailing environment is much different than it used to be.
To add to that too, as you have more people moving to Vancouver and living in Vancouver, Vancouver has seen their sales tax increase dramatically in the last 2 years. And a lot of that's attributed to the convenience retail, the fast food, the quick trip to the market. As traffic has increased, you're no longer willing to just pop down into Portland to buy something that doesn't have sales tax. you're more likely to buy it close to home as you now live there, or maybe you live and work there, and coming to Portland on a 45-minute drive is no longer that appealing.
What was the driver for the $800 a foot retail center that sold? And what was the cap rate?
The cap rate was, I believe it was 5.54%, and the driver was really, really high rental value. I believe that there was a drive-through that was part of the project, and then it had an A plus location and really strong tenancy.
Do I have to use that?
No.
I have a pretty loud voice, so I think everyone will probably be able to hear me. But my question is, in your appraisals, when you're looking across Vancouver City and Clark County, can you hear me, everyone? Are you seeing, how would you compare like 192nd, like the Fisher Landing area, to downtown? Because when I'm over there, I see a big difference between the amount of vacancies sitting in downtown Vancouver, and then when you get out there, there's a much more vibrant retail and, you know, not so much industrial out there, but so I'm just kind of curious, are you seeing a trend towards going east versus being downtown?
I think they operate separately. And about a third of the work I did last year was in Vancouver. And I really think you have to look at downtown. That's downtown Vancouver. 192nd is 192nd. You know, your comparable retail centers might be 164th, but otherwise, it's just not comparable. The rents are different. You're right. The vacancy is different. The drivers are different. The people that are living on 192nd and the Camas area are the drivers for that retail over there. Downtown is its entirely own different deal. And I think downtown is just starting to really get traction. And so it has been less attractive than what's out on 192nd, 164th. It's going to become more attractive, but I don't know when that's really going to switch for retail and office. Retail and office has really struggled in downtown for a long time.
Yeah. If anybody has been to Vancouver on the weekend, it is a ghost town. And so you have to imagine as a retailer in downtown, you got to get all your business done, like, you know, lunch, dinner during the week, and so it's a completely different driver, as Ray was saying.
Present company excluded, I'm confident. We've all received appraisals that left us scratching our heads.
Me too.
Yeah. From a broker standpoint, what's the best method to approach an appraiser when questioning that? How do we go about that from your perspective?
That's just an exceptional question, and I'm glad you asked that. The best thing that you can do is you can get a hold of the lender, whatever lender representative there is, and work back through the lender. It would be inappropriate for you to directly go to the appraiser and start asking questions about the appraisal when the appraiser doesn't have the right to discuss those issues with you. So the best thing that you can do, absolutely advocate your property. If you think something has gone amiss and the appraiser missed something, or we missed a comp, or whatever the issue is, work back through the lender, and then it'll get back to us through the appropriate channels. If you call us directly, then I have to explain to you that you can't talk to me directly, and I can't talk to you about the assignment, and that you need to go talk to the lender.
However, when we're first engaged to work on the assignment and we reach out to you, you can tell us everything that you would like about the project. And it's much, much easier to understand your viewpoint before we turn an assignment into the bank.
Yeah, so once we turn it in, then it's a totally different process to access us.
Bueller. Sorry. No, I'll second that as on the lending side of things, because we've actually worked with a number of different appraisers out there in the market and comparing notes as far as underwriting, and they've been very open about discussing income and expenses with us. So thank you guys for doing that stuff on the lending side of things. The project that you guys were talking about on obviously the waterfront, and obviously the rents as far as the office and the multifamily seem like they're almost geared towards downtown core. I think it was $33 triple net for the office, and then the rental rates for the multifamily seemed, in my opinion, astronomical. But as far as you guys as appraisers, I mean, you're seeing some lease up. Are you guys, for that market, what's your projected absorption rate for those properties out there? Are you guys anticipating a longer absorption period?
On multifamily, those are asking rates, right? So, and that property's going live next week. I think they've started pre-leasing, but I don't know if they're actually getting those rates. And that also doesn't factor in concessions, and I don't know what their concessions are. So if you're applying a month or 2 months free rent, it's going to really impact the overall. Absorption, it's a 3% vacancy. So if you're working in the nearby office tower, I think it's going to be absorbed pretty quickly. What that looks like when those other 400 units come into downtown, who knows? Anything else?
Any other questions? Okay, well, thank you guys. Grant, good job. Ray?